Hello. I literally just finished filming my outro for last week's video because I am taking advantage of this natural sun while it's here for the next 20 minutes. Welcome to week 3 of reading Goodreads Choice Awards / the public's favorite books of the year. Last week we did young adult fiction, but I DNF'd the fiction book. And this week we are doing historical fiction and romance. I'm so excited for this. I used to read a lot of historical fiction. That kind of was the only genre that I read. I want to say like most of my late teenage years, early 20s, and it's kind of dropped off recently because I feel like most of the books I've read are very similar to one another. I have read one book in this category already this year. I read The Women in my book club, and I really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving that 4 stars. It is the second Kristen Hanna book that I read. The first one was, what's the one during the Dust Bowl? And I didn't like it, so I was actually nervous to read The Women, but I really enjoyed it. And I have read no romance from this list that Goodreads put out, but all of them were already on my want to read list. So yeah, join me this week where we're going to read 4 more books. We are going to start today. My first book on the list is The Book Lover's Library by Madeline Martin. And I got large print from my library. Check this out. Yeah, huge. Love it. I actually don't know what this is about. Widows with children can't get employment in England. Doesn't say when. I'm guessing it's post-war. Oh, when the threat of war becomes reality. Okay, so it's probably between the First and Second World War? I'm just assuming. We will see what this is about. The back is actually very vague, so I will start this today. So we will see how it goes. Hopefully better than last week. I had some rough ratings and then some good books at the end of the week. So I hope that I have all 4 stars or higher this week. Do you think that's asking a lot? I think I have high hopes for historical fiction and romance. Oh no, maybe I'll be disappointed because I'm putting too much stake in it and I have high expectations. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's on Spotify because I want to cook dinner and walk the dogs. 2 very good things to have an audiobook for. Book Lover's Library is on Spotify. Look at that. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is 6 o'clock. I have to go to work very soon. I listened to about an hour and a half of the audiobook yesterday while I did a puzzle, so that was really nice. And I don't mind the narrator. Not my favorite, but I don't mind her. So I will probably listen to a good chunk of it at work today as well. So I thought I'd do a little first impressions chat before I get too far. I am just about to start chapter 14. So, I mean, I was going to say 150 pages, but it's large print, so it would be a lot less than that, I think. It doesn't feel like I'm at anything plot heavy yet. So the first chapter, you learn, I guess it's more like prologue. Her father died when she was very young. Her mom died when she was a baby. And her dad had a bookstore together and it caught on fire and he passed away. That's the little lead into the story. And then it's 8 years later. And she's trying desperately to find a job because the laws in England, Europe, who knows where, mothers can't find jobs. Widowed moms can't work. Married women can't work. It's very difficult for her to find a job. The cat likes the mic. So now she's working at this bookstore where she overheard somebody quit. So she knew there was a job opening and she knows books. It's not a bookstore. It is a lending library where you have to pay a subscription to be the first one to be able to read the good books, which is very interesting. A little bit classist, if you ask me, but it's very interesting. And it's 1939 now, so the war has just started where I am in the book, and she had to send her daughter away to the countryside because they live in a high-risk area with lots of factories. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So far, I'm finding it repetitive. Ever since her daughter left, she goes on at length, multiple times a chapter, about how she misses her. And I think as a reader, we understand that now. Like, you don't have to talk about the pain of her not being in your bed and holding your hand and hearing her laugh. And it's fine the first couple of times, and then it just becomes drilled into you. I also think there's 2 women who she works with, primarily Miss Crane and Margaret, and Margaret is introduced as this very kind woman, very bubbly personality, and Miss Crane is introduced as someone maybe who's a little bit harsher and not so kind and not so easy to get along with. And I think it's a little bit of a switcheroo going on. Like, I'm pretty sure that their roles are going to switch and that Margaret maybe is keeping a lot of secrets, maybe is a pathological liar, maybe trying to get her fired. I'm not sure. That's my theory. So someone is trying to frame her by putting books in the wrong section, and I think you're supposed to think that it's Miss Crane, but I'm pretty sure it's Margaret. So I'm curious where that's gonna go, but also I'm not so happy that it's very obvious that it's backwards, unless I'm totally wrong. In August, I listened to Embers in the London Sky, and this so far seems very similar to that to me. I think it's a worse version of that, in my opinion. That book is about a mother, I think a widowed mother, who gets separated from her son and tries to find him the whole book. But it seems like the same vibes. Obviously, London, World War II. Pretty sure our love interest is going to come in soon, and in that one there is too. Your hair is everywhere, girl. Also, the writing is very similar, but that one gripped me a lot sooner. So that's why I'm going to listen to the audiobook while I work most of today, because I am finding it just a little bit repetitive and boring. I am curious what's going to happen, and I love the scenes when she's talking to the customers at the library. We'll see where it goes. So far, those are my thoughts when I am about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through. I am off to work. Hello, and welcome to the sunniest first week of December that this town has ever seen. It's beautiful, but this is not right. I am now home from work. I listened to the Book Lovers Library throughout the day, here and there. Apparently started a chapter and didn't finish it. I'm on chapter 23, so... Right, I stopped because I was annoyed. So I'm here. My book on Spotify says 45%, but this doesn't feel that close to the middle. I am liking it less as time goes on. I actually remember as I read the first sentence of this chapter, I stopped because I was like, ugh, like I can't with this conflict. I will finish it. I'm not struggling that much, but I don't love it. Do I like it? I like it okay, but I don't love it. It's very much about motherhood and about having a village, which is a wonderful message. But again, she just keeps drilling the same points in, and I don't find motherhood that relatable. Honestly, I keep thinking of Embers in the London Sky, which I really liked, and that was better than this. So I keep comparing it, which is maybe a problem. I'm finding one of my biggest struggles is anytime she has inner conflict or someone's asking her a question she has to reply to. I mean, I'm listening, so I don't know how many pages, but it feels like pages of inner thoughts. And anytime I read that in a book, I think, oh my goodness, if you were actually taking this long to respond and have all of these thoughts before replying, no one would be waiting for your answer. Like, you're taking so long to think about it, and it's not actually as deep as she wants it to be, because these inner thoughts are not telling us anything new. It's repeating the same problems she's had before. So I think I wish there was just more dialogue and a better conflict. Because now, since this morning when I said I enjoy the parts in the library, we've barely had any parts in the library. She went and visited her daughter, so that was really great. We met a whole new character who now is already out of the story, so I'm really confused about that, but maybe that will fill itself in later. And I still think Margaret is the antagonist. I think she's a pathological liar, and not one thing she has said is the truth. I think she likes the drama, maybe, or likes to be the center of attention, or I don't know. I don't know why yet, but I think we don't like her. So that's where I'm sitting at the halfway point. Want to finish it today just to get it done. Ooh. Which is not always a great feeling. I just want to move on to the next book. It's okay. It's okay. I'm glad I'm reading it first this week so that I know I have hopefully better things to look forward to. It's okay. It's just okay. I think maybe it just needs another plot point. Maybe just like one more thing needs to be happening at the same time to keep me from being bored. There's no romance, which is okay. I love a romance in a historical fiction, but that's okay. There was almost a mystery aspect, but that was about 5 pages, and then it had nothing to do with her, and I was like, oh, I hope this means something later as well. So I was excited for something else to come in, and then every time something else has almost come in, they've dropped it. I'm gonna have a little snack, maybe a little coffee, and I'm going to listen to it, and I am going to putter. Hello, friends. It's the next day. I think I filmed yesterday, right? Yeah, listened to the audiobook while I got ready for work. And then I listened to it most of my work day, I'd say off and on, in between all the meetings and the important stuff. And then I finished listening to it while I just cooked dinner, and it was done right at the time that dinner was ready, so that was really nice. So I think I read, how far did I read? To like chapter 14, maybe not even, and then I listened to the entire thing on the audiobook. Sometimes it's because I just want to know what happens, but this time it was, I just want to kind of get it over with. It's not a bad enough book to DNF, but it is a bad enough book that if I read it, it would take me a week to get through, because it's just a bit clumpy, sloshy. I don't know what word I'm looking for. And I was just so curious what was going to happen. And all of those theories that I came up with, I think I needed some drama in this book. I said I think Margaret loves the drama. No, I love the drama. Everything kind of is status quo. It's a bit boring. The whole book is kind of marketed as the book lover's library. It's all about the library. No, it's all about a mother and her daughter. I was really happy when the romance came in. I think it was at like 50% of the way through. And then it just kind of was there. I don't know. It didn't make me feel romantic. It didn't make me feel hooked. It didn't make me feel in suspense. Like nothing about the story gave me any urgent feelings of I need to keep reading, because otherwise I'm not going to know what happens. So that is a little bit sad. It's not a great start to the week. I wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people. I would recommend it maybe to people who primarily love historical fiction, but even then, it's like 1939 to 1940. Maybe they dip into 1941, and then it's the end of the book, and then the epilogue's 5 years later, the war is over, and they kind of just wrap everything up. I don't love that. Like, if you're going to write a book about World War II, maybe have it take place across World War II instead of like 1939, 1940, 1941. The war's been over for 4 years. I don't know. I wanted there to be more library scenes. Those were the best parts. I did like the response as to who was misshelving books. I did cry a couple of times. Once because they talked about this government request to put your pets down, and then I looked it up, and 400,000 dogs and cats were put down in 1939 before the war even really got started to conserve food. That made me sad. I didn't like that. And then I cried a couple of more times because I do like Olivia, her daughter. I am glad to have finally read a book where an 8-year-old acts her age, and it's not like, oh, she's grown up so fast because of all this stuff, which it was a little bit, but like a believable amount. She still has rules she has to follow. She still is whiny sometimes. She is a kid. So I appreciated that for what it was as well. So the Olivia stuff did make me cry a little bit. Actually, mostly when she starts to love reading. I loved that. I loved that whole chapter because it just is discovering this whole new world, right? And I remember loving reading as a kid, and so it's always wonderful to read about other kids who enjoy reading. But otherwise, I was not crazy about this book. I really wanted to like it. I liked what it taught me about history. I liked what it taught me about the workforce laws around married women and widowed mothers, and how ridiculous it was that those laws didn't change until 1975. Are you kidding me? I was putting it into perspective. I'm pretty sure my dad could drive at that point, and this was still an English law. People were allowed to say, oh, we can fire you. You have to leave because you got married. Make it make sense. Not that discrimination doesn't exist anymore, but like it was legally okay. Anyway, in the end, I am rating The Book Lover's Library 3 stars. Part of me thinks that that is generous, and the other part thinks that it is rude, so it feels like the right place to land. Book 2 is one that I'm very excited to read. I think I added this to my want to read list when it came out. I feel like I saw something about it and I really wanted to read it. And I don't totally know what it's about. The second book of the week is Anita de Monte Laughs Last by Xochitl Gonzalez. In 1985, Anita de Monte, a rising star in the art world, is found dead in New York City. Her tragic death is the talk of the town until it isn't. By 1998, it has been all but forgotten. And certainly by the time Raquel, the third-year art history student, is preparing her final thesis on College Hill, surrounded by privileged students whose futures are already paved for them, Raquel feels like an outsider. Students of color like her are the minority, and the pressure to work twice as hard for the same opportunities is no secret. So it's the 90s, but it's probably flashing back to the 80s. I don't love a dual timeline, but I hope that this battles that dislike, because the last couple I've read have been good, but it's because it's letters that go back in time and not actually back in time. So we'll see how I feel about the flashbacks. This is book 2. We picked up the Christmas tree, so we're going to put that up, and then I'm going to read with a little decappuccino. Stole my spot. Hi guys, I am coming to you with some unfortunate news, and that is that I am DNFing. I needed a Monte Laughs last. I got to page 78. I'm finding it difficult to read for a number of reasons. The first is just the writing in general. It's so wordy, like there's a lot of just words, and I think only half of them matter, and I find that challenging. So it's very wordy, and I don't know what's important in those words, and a lot of it is very... Maybe it's just because it's about art history and about all of these things that I don't understand. So I feel a little bit stupid. The second thing is the dual timeline, because it's not a dual timeline, it's every timeline. It starts with Anita in 1985 and then goes to Raquel in the 90s and then Anita in 1980 and then back to Raquel and then Jack in 1985. I'm lost. When I get there, I have to go back and look at the other chapters and see when they were to compare them to each other, and it's confusing, and I don't like that. And I was going to listen to the audiobook while I work because my library has a copy, and I was like, I'm just going to be confused. It's like I'm not going to know what year it is. And then the other thing is just what's happening inside of it. I think that there's a lot of important conversations in this book, and I did find those interesting, but again, they're in the form of art history and music and the arts in general, and I don't understand that world, and I'm finding it so confusing. Like 10 minutes ago, I was thinking to myself, if I was not doing this challenge, would I feel like I have to finish this book? And the answer is no. I wouldn't want to read this. Don't think I'll think about the characters now that I know I'm DNFing it, so that tells me it's okay. So we're done with this. So instead, I will be starting Daydream by Hannah Grace. We are going completely the opposite direction. We are shifting to something super light and fluffy, and I'm okay with that. I read Icebreaker on my Kindle, so I also want to say that that was like maybe the beginning, like January 2023-ish, and I read Wildfire this summer. I got it from the library as well. So this came from the library. This was one of the longest ones I had to wait for. I just got it the other day. I will be studying Daydream today. I'm going to bring it with me and hopefully read on my lunch break. Probably not so much tonight because I do want to decorate the Christmas tree. We picked up the Christmas tree yesterday. She's beautiful. And I definitely can't get the audiobook of this from the library. It's a very long wait. And I don't think it's going to be on Spotify because it's still very new. But let's see, just to be sure. Oh, it's available on Spotify. I could listen to the audiobook as well while I decorate the tree. Oh, I kind of need Christmas music. I don't actually prefer audiobooks. A lot of the time I'll start an audiobook and really like it and then stop and get the book to physically read because I'm like, I much prefer absorbing it in that way. Okay, so I'm gonna go to work now and I'll bring this. I'll probably read it on my lunch break and we will go from there. I am about halfway through Daydream. I think at this point it might be my least favorite of the three books. I'm not sure because I didn't actually love Wildfire. So I think that Icebreaker is still going to sit at my favorite. But that's okay. I am enjoying it. I like both of our main characters. I think though I did prefer Henry when we read him in other books better than I like him from his perspective. I think maybe I'm struggling with the fact that I like both main characters, but I don't actually see their chemistry so much. It feels like a friendship to me more than anything, which is a wonderful thing, but I don't know, they're like friends with benefits who hold hands and cuddle right now, which is cute, but I'm worried that when I get to the part where they actually fall in love, I don't think I'll believe it so much. So maybe I'm struggling to think about that. Hallie started this book thinking that she didn't have very many friends, so seeing her authentically become friends with people is my favorite part of this book. She is moving towards girlhood, and it's so fun. I think that is definitely my favorite. I look forward to the points of friendship more than I look forward to the relationship between the two of them. I do really like their nickname for each other and that they have the same nickname because of like some weird little inside joke from when they met. I think that's so fun. Anyway, yeah, so this is book 3. It's Henry's perspective, if you didn't know that. I feel like everybody knows about this book, so I feel like I don't have to talk about it, but they're still at Maple Hills College in California. He's a hockey player. She doesn't know much about any sport. That's a lie. Her brother is a professional football player. Why is it in this series that every single person is related to or is going to be someone famous? Give me a normie next time, please. That's all I have for you. I honestly don't have very many thoughts. Hello everyone, I am here with updates. Is Sunday, so it's been a couple of days, but I've done reading. So I finished Daydream yesterday morning. I'm trying to remember what my last update was. I think I was like about halfway, and I just said I didn't see their chemistry really. I don't know that that changed. I liked this book, and I think I rated it higher than all the other ones, but mostly because of their individual journeys and not because of their relationship. I didn't love the romantic parts of this book. I loved the personal growth parts of this book, and that I actually connected emotionally with both characters at multiple points throughout the book is really what got me. Their romance I still don't really see, so that's challenging for me because I liked it, but not for the main part of the book. I still think the girlhood parts and Hallie's relationship with her friends was the best part of this book. I really loved them banding together to help her and the way that they could talk about anything. My big problem throughout this book is that it always feels like Hallie is compromising herself and her time to help Henry. And I struggled with that throughout the book. That's not romantic. That's something she complains about doing for everybody. So I feel like even though she doesn't complain about it yet with him, it's something that she would come to resent. But they address that at the end, kind of. I think it's wonderful that she gives him the space to be who he is. But again, you shouldn't have to compromise yourself and go without talking for a very long time. Maybe it's just because I struggle to know that I would not be able to deal with that. But I still understand where Henry comes from. Like sometimes you just need to be alone and you don't need other people, but that shouldn't last weeks and months. And that it kind of just fast forwarded through those months instead of focusing on them because it was about their relationship and not about her friendships. So I didn't get to see that extra growth. Her fight with her mom was good. Obviously it has to come to a head. I feel like in all of these books there's a point where they confront their parents about their familial relationships, which is great. This one came to a big argument and then they said let's talk about it later, and then later it was like I talked to my mom and everything was fine, and we don't get to see the outcome of that conversation, and I didn't like that. I'm saying a lot of things that I didn't like. I liked it, but now I'm struggling to find those things. I rated it a 3.5, and I think I'm changing it to 3 because I still liked the first one the best, and I rated that 3 stars. Yeah, this is gonna be a 3-star book for me. I don't have much to say about it. I'm like trying to remember stuff that happened and I finished it yesterday. So that's that one. And then this morning I started Wild Love by Elsie Silver, which I'm already enjoying a lot better than that one, and I'm only 70 pages in. I am really liking it. I'm tabbing it. I found 3 really nice colors that nicely go with the front cover. I think a very cool part is that it is local to me. Like they live in Alberta and I live in BC, and it looks like where they live is right on the border, which is very cool. Like she was in Vancouver at the start of the book and I live on the outskirts of Vancouver. I don't get that a lot, so that's really cool. I feel like a lot of Canadian books that I've read, which are still only a handful, are usually Ontario. So having it West Coast is very fun. I like our main characters already. I like that they banter with each other all the time. So it starts with Ford being made fun of by his best friend for being the hottest billionaire or whatever, and he's trying to open a production studio, and then a girl shows up and says, hey, you're my dad. That's like in the first chapter. I'm not ruining anything, I promise. And then we switch to Rosie, which is his best friend's sister. Yes, we have a best friend's sister. Love it. And she is leaving her job in the city and moving back home. And that's just kind of where it's starting out. Right off the bat, it reminds me of, what's it called? The Lucy Score book I just read last month. Things We Never Got Over. The premise for that is very similar. Has lots of money, the male main character, just this time the kid is with him instead of with the girl. I can already tell that I like Ford better. I really struggled to like, I don't even know his name, and I just read it. I really struggled to like the male main character in that book. He was actually mean, and I think Ford is not actually mean. I think there's one thing about like going for the mean guy and like having snarky conversations in this banter, but that guy was actually rubbed me the wrong way, and a lot of the things he said I wouldn't forgive. And so far this is just a bit of fun. They're just poking fun. I can tell that they have the initial attraction to each other, and I'm liking it. She just asked Ford if she could work for him because she doesn't have a job in the city anymore, and she's like, I'm gonna stay here. Do you have anything I can do? So I think she's gonna be his personal assistant for a while, hang out with the kid. So far the kid is really cool. Her name is Cora, and she's 12, and I think maybe that's the biggest connection to Things We Never Got Over is she is very similar to Way in that book. So I'm really enjoying it. I was hoping to finish this today, but I do have some non-negotiables I have to get done today. I might be poking into tomorrow. So I'm at the campfire scene and Cora just went to bed, and I think they're so cute together. They have like that weird chemistry that I feel like Zach and I had when we started dating, and I love it. Just like making fun of each other, but also it's very clear that they like each other. I think I'm gonna like this book. I think I'm gonna like it. I'm liking it. I also have a snoring puppy beside me. I'm ready for an update. I am a little bit over halfway. I'm page 220 and I'm loving it. I read until 1-ish and then I walked the dogs and did some of my other non-negotiables and a couple of other things, including puzzling for like 2 hours while watching YouTube. I am quite addicted to it. I put it down to eat lunch and then I was like, now's a good time to get some other things done, and then procrastinated, but I am ready to keep reading all night. I read the first half pretty quickly. Maybe like 4 hours. So I think with everything, I'll probably be in bed by 9 or 10, which hopefully not the 10. I love all of the characters. We are following Ford and Rosie, as I've already said. Ford finds out that he's a dad, and Rosie moves back from Vancouver. They're actually in BC. It looks like they're like right on the border, and she is Ford's best friend's sister. And things are just finally starting to get going halfway through. But even throughout the whole thing, like their little touches and their glances and their bickering, and it's so much fun, and I do keep comparing it to things we never got over. This is way better. It is worlds better. That book, like, I didn't want to keep reading. I don't think I would have been able to read it in a day unless I was forced to. Way was my favorite character from that, and in this book, I like Cora so much more. She's my favorite character. How is it that I keep loving the 12-year-olds in these books? So Ford hires Rosie because she doesn't have a job anymore. And then they're forced to spend all their time together because of that, but they both want to. And she develops a wonderful relationship with Cora, and it's so cute. And now we've just met Willa, Ford's sister, from Chestnut Springs. So I'm assuming maybe I should have read that series first. I just know who she's married to now, but I'm sure if you read any of those books, it's very obvious who people get married to. I also think maybe we have found a female main character who doesn't want babies. At least I'm crossing my fingers. In the epilogue, it's always they get married and have kids, which is wonderful. I don't want kids. I'm child-free. So sometimes it's just nice to find a female main character who's like, oh, not interested in babies. I'll take the teenagers. I'll be a great aunt. Like, that's me. So it'd be really nice if that was true, but we'll find out. That's just an aside. My least favorite thing about best friend's sister is you're like, why wouldn't you want your best friend to be with someone that you care about? I understand that if it doesn't work out, it kind of ruins relationships for a little while, but people can be mature. They mention that in this book, and I appreciate that so much. Of course, why wouldn't you want your best friend, if you like your brother and you like your best friend, why wouldn't you want them to all hang out all the time? I think that's a con in a few romance books, so I appreciate that. There's also something really cute that he does for her. I don't want to ruin too much because it's actually really cute to learn that it's happened, but something from their past comes up again, and then she slowly talks about it and gives him pieces of this story from her past, and it's really fun. It's really fun and also really grown up. And I really appreciate Rosie for the mature relationship decisions that she makes throughout the book. I'm gonna go read these last 200 pages in the bath with a glass of wine and some chocolate. Hello everyone. I'm sitting on the kitchen floor because this is the only window right now that has good natural light. It's like almost 4 p.m. and that sun is going down fast. Excuse the hair. It was a Monday at work, so about halfway through the day I just needed to throw it up. Anyway, it's Monday. I finished Wild Love by Elsie Silver yesterday, and I honestly loved it. This is easily one of the best romances that I have read in a very long time. I've read some really good books recently that are fiction that have romance in them, but like, oh, this hit. It hit most marks for me. It was so good. I think the spice was not nearly as cringy as books that I have read at all recently. I think there was like one or two things where I was like, oh, but everything else it was good. That feels really weird to say. I think that Ford is one of the best written men that I've read in a long time. And their relationship reminds me so much of my relationship with my partner. We have people in our lives who tell us, like my aunt who sees us like once a year when we're together, she's like, why you guys fight so much? And we're like, we don't fight at all. We actually really love each other. And we just, what do you call that? We just play devil's advocate for everything. So yeah, we bicker, but we never actually fight. Like, we're like this, where it's our love language half the time. We just tease each other. I don't know. So I think that's a big part of the reason I loved it. But also just Ford, I had to keep reminding myself, like, this is a fictional man, but still he reminded me of Zach. Just like all the things that he fought misogynistic men. It's just amazing. But it also should be the standard, and I'm lucky that in my life it is, and I'm so actually amazingly lucky that my favorite male book character reminds me of the person that I get to live with forever. Like, it just, anyway, don't want to brag too much, but that made me love this book. I also really loved the peeks into their childhood. I feel like it really actually showed us and linked to who they were as adults. So a lot of the time they reminisce about their childhood together, and apart, I guess, they reminisce about each other to themselves. And it's not like flashbacky, it's just like thinking, oh, this reminds me of him doing this when he was a teenager. And I'm like, it totally connects, and it just makes it that much more clear why they act the way that they do and why both of them make the decisions that they do. And I think that was really wonderful. It just solidified their characters for me. When it makes sense, right? There's nothing worse than you're like, why would people make these decisions in this book? But you see why they would, because that's kind of how they've been their whole lives. I really love Rosie, our female main character. I think she's so fun. I think the one thing that bothered me was there's a little bit too much of, I'm not like the other girls, or she's not like the other girls for me, which sometimes it's wonderful to be like other women, and women are really cool, and we should maybe celebrate that a little bit more. So there's a little bit too much of that for me. Also, half the time it actually fit the context of like, oh, I don't know why he would be with me when he's a billionaire who could be with a model. Yeah, of course. But also models are people too, and it doesn't make them lesser than, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so that part kind of bugged me, but I got over it because the rest of it made up for it. There were some really great moments between Rosie and Cora as well. I think that their relationship was just so cool. And again, she really felt like a cool aunt, and I loved that because that's what I aspire to be in my life. And those were the moments that actually made me the most emotional in this book. I cried a couple of times. One was the experience that Cora had at school. Two experiences that she had at school. One with Rosie and one was actually like in school. So those things made me emotional because it was just so much girlhood. And the conflict, I was like, oh, this is going to be an annoying conflict, I can tell. And it got wrapped up pretty quickly and in a different way than I expected, which was kind of a breath of fresh air. It wasn't necessarily miscommunication. That's what I thought it was going to be. So I actually really appreciate that. Sorted itself out in a really nice way and didn't last too long, because there's nothing worse than when the conflict is like, yeah, okay, I can see this, and then it's like 30 pages and you're like, I don't want to keep reading. It wasn't that. So that was really good. And stuff happened in between. The conflict wasn't just about that. There was other stuff going on that still you wanted to read about. It was missing a little bit of that found family of friendships. It was mostly actual literal family and relationship, and not enough of the friendships. Though now that I'm saying it, sometimes in small town romances, they hang out with their friends too often, and you're like, you don't see your friends that often unless you're neighbors, which they kind of are. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore then. I think that's the main thing I didn't really like. I also do think it was maybe a tad too long. Didn't get bored. I loved that I kept reading, but I think there were some things that didn't need to be in there. I am edging so close to a 5-star, but it's not quite. I think I'm going to say that Wild Love is 4.5 stars. I feel so comfortable with that though. I don't think it will move up. Maybe I'll reread it one day and I'll love it more, but at this point we are going to finish with a rating of 4.5 stars, which is an amazing rating. But I finished it yesterday and I didn't actually look back on it too much today. I didn't really think about it, so I don't think I can rate it 5 stars. So that concludes this week. It didn't go as well as I wanted it to, and I hope that it didn't put me into a reading slump, because now it's the next day and I have to start the next week of reading, and I am not super inclined to. I think I'm gonna take today off. One highly rated book is great. It is better than none. See you next week for only three of the best rated sci-fis of the year.